Thank you for listening to Hustle and Heart. I'm your host, Edie Weintraub. Today we're excited to spotlight India Johnson, Sauce Queen, a rising culinary star in Atlanta's vibrant food scene. Since 2021, Sauce Queen has been on a mission to create delicious products and serve the Atlanta community we know and love. What started as a venture into crafting pantry staples has evolved into a dynamic culinary experience featuring pop-ups and events where supporters have played a crucial role in taste testing potential menu items. India, thank you for being here.
Hi, Edie. Thank you for having me.
So for those who have not had a chance to meet you or hear your story, would you mind sharing it with us?
Absolutely. My name is Chef India Johnson, and I am what I consider to be a culinary entrepreneur here in the Atlanta, Georgia area. I started out as a private chef back in the early 2000s, and I've had grown my career here, like you said, through events and pop-ups over the years here in Atlanta. So worked with a lot of brands, corporations, and great people over my time in my journey as a chef.
So did you grow up in Atlanta?
No, so I'm originally from Queens, New York. And
Yes.
when I talk about my journey and how I got here, I graduated high school and came to Atlanta for college. Not really like your traditional college girl. Actually went to DeVry to get a technology degree in the early 2000s. It was like, go into computers, that's where you'll make money. So did that and worked in corporate America for a while, which then took me down to Florida. And then I came back to Atlanta in 2010.
Beautiful. Well, I love how you integrated Queen, where you grew up, into your name. That's worked out really well.
Yeah, well, becoming a person that just loved to make sauces. People actually just started calling me Sauce Queen, and it just stuck over the years. So I am the Sauce Queen. That is people refer me to.
Yeah, well,
a person who does really well with sauces.
and I love that the name was gifted to you rather than you choosing it for yourself. It makes it that much more special.
Oh yeah, definitely. I could not avoid that at all.
So what pulled you into the world of culinary? What said, I need to get this creativity out into the world and share it with others? What was that catalyst moment?
Yeah, it's funny you use the word creativity because I definitely consider myself a creative or an artist. More so as a chef, people call me chef all the time and every day, and I accept that. But my personal thoughts and feelings as far as what I do is way more creative in the process of how I cook food. The journey, I just mentioned corporate America. So, there was a point in time I was just really unhappy and just working in banking and, making a great salary and building, my life as a young adult, buying a house, all the things. And I just wasn't happy at all. My dad, my dad is also a chef or a cook his entire life within restaurants in New York. And I've always just been around people of culinary talent. My dad, I've got people in my family who are also restaurateurs in up north, New York, Virginia. And so I just always grew up around that and personally just love to cook for friends and family. They are the ones who pushed me into the realm of food. But it's interesting, my story doesn't really start out exactly in food. It really starts off in beverage. So I used to play around with winemaking and considered myself like a self-taught winemaker for a couple years. I started a brand called Urban Vines where I was doing wine tastings and personally making small batches for people and bottling that, and really wanted to grow into, potentially having like a physical space to do that. I mean, everybody knows like land and vineyards. That's unless you have a family doing that, it's very hard to obtain that type of situation for winemaking. But not so much like just having a facility where you can just process the juice. And I really wanted to just do that. But at the time, laws were just not great for people like me to go into a business like that. Like I remember when I moved back to Atlanta in 2010 and I was like, hey, looking into like permits and licensing and like being a winemaker was just like unheard of at the time. So it was a lot of red tape. But I did like continue to do like wine tastings and events and stuff like that. And whenever I would have an event, when you have alcohol, like food is usually necessary.
Of course. It's good balance. Everything in balance.
So versus like hiring chefs or catering companies or for whatever I was doing, because it was typically small anyway, I just started doing the food myself. And so people who would start to come to these events would give me, rave reviews around the food. They were like, these would be like, the wine is great, but your food is amazing, and you really need to look into doing that. And so, at the time when I moved back to Atlanta from Florida, still corporate America, but I was like dabbling in like just working in restaurants like nights and weekends. So in Atlanta, I worked in places like Ormsby's and Crew, which was like a wine bar in Midtown, and just like building my experience at night until I felt comfortable enough to like eventually think about, okay, do I want to go to culinary school? And like all of my chef friends and people in hospitality were like, no, you don't want to do that. Lodge with people, work with people, and that's exactly what I did. I have a lot of chef friends who are also doing like outside of restaurants, doing things on the side, events, catering, and I just started working with as many people as I could. Just learning the business from that perspective, events and catering, because honestly, my niche is events. I don't consider myself to be a restaurant chef, but that's kind of like how I learned, was like how to, book clients for events, execute events, good quality food and everybody's happy type of situation. So that's kind of how I grew my career over the years. And we're talking early 2000s, right? And then things got really better for me and shifted when social media blew up from Facebook to Instagram was a big thing. And then, okay, now we have technology and a social platform to kind of showcase my work. So, I utilize Instagram kind of as like, go look at my work. You will hardly see personal things, which people tell me I need to post personal things more because I have kids and all this stuff.
Sprinkle a little bit in here and there.
Right, but I think of it as like an online portfolio, right? So you can go to my Instagram and you can see my style of food and the things that I cook. So with social media and just kind of pushing my way forward and like learning the industry here in Atlanta is kind of how I got into food and how I grew my career, and that's what helped me get to where I am today.
That's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
I appreciate that you've shared that you didn't feel compelled or pushed into going to school, because I feel like I have mixed thoughts about that. Because if you come out of school and you're in a position and they tell you need to all of a sudden make 1,000 omelets, well, going to school doesn't necessarily make you good at making 1,000 omelets. Making 1,000 omelets makes you good at making 1,000 omelets. So I've heard, some mixed reviews, and I think the prevailing view is just go learn from a variety of different people, and then you can create your own style and your own methods.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that I still do, but now that we're talking about it, like, there are other chefs out in Atlanta that are doing things similar that, to me or not, but we are a small community. I think that we all love to support one another. So I do get asked to help other chefs still on their events, and I'm still learning, working alongside another chef that does things a little bit differently, technique-wise or just like creative-wise. I'm still learning from others, and people are learning from me. Every time I have like a big event where I need an extra pair of hands, where I'm asking chef friends, it's like, inspiring others. Oh, never thought to do it that way, so it's an ever evolving but ever learning process with this industry, I believe, because you can always do something different, do something better. Not everything we do comes out great.
Completely
So
agree.
room for improvement. So yeah.
Always. It's a great attitude to have, because you know that you're always investing in yourself. You're always growing.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So what is something you love making that maybe caught you off guard as someone had it and received it and was just blown away?
Oh my goodness.
That maybe you didn't anticipate it was going to go over so well.
I will tell you a quick initial story of in this moment where I just didn't realize when somebody tasted something from me how impactful that could be. And so I would say I was at an event, was facilitating an event, cooking food and stuff, and there was a dish I made with Brussels sprouts, and somebody was at this event and never had Brussels sprouts before, was afraid of them, always thought they were disgusting, and decided to kind of give my Brussels sprouts a try, and told me I basically changed their life and thought on like just something as simple as an ingredient as Brussels sprouts. But as we all know, it just depends on how you cook them and how you see them, and doing it with love and care, that you could honestly change someone's life with Brussels sprouts. So when I started hearing things like that, and I've heard that type of stuff a lot over my career, it has always been the driving factor that I have some sort of talent, that I'm out here changing lives over Brussels sprouts and other things. And that's just amazing to me. It just pushes me forward to just continue to grow as a chef.
What a beautiful story. I think part of the beauty of, preparing something and then having that experience and that return of love is just not like a ghost kitchen, right? I feel like ghost kitchens you're producing like a robot for someone you don't see.
Right.
Whereas having that experience where you're sharing your food, they're giving you that immediate feedback, but you're also seeing their concern and giving them the gift of trying something new and realizing they like it. That's just magical.
Yeah, I think food for me is like my love language. I'm a person of service. It really makes my day when I make something that someone is tasting, like you said, in that moment, and brings them that immediate joy, right? So I'm just like, that's what I do this for.
Now,
that's what makes me happy.
Are you officially in culinary and food full time, or are you still okay? Good.
Yeah. So over the course of my careers, I left corporate America. I would say maybe about right before COVID, to be honest. So COVID brought a big change in everyone's lives, in where they were working and what they were doing. And I was also I just had a baby in 2019, so it was one of those things where I was like, I'm just going to got furloughed and just decided to stay home with my kid and really think about my career, because in all honesty, I'm not ever gonna hate on corporate America or having a day job. I'm one of those believers. It's like hustle while you work. If you can get a job doing something and get paid and still continue to work on your craft on the side, nights and weekends, I say go for it. Everybody needs a stable income, especially when you have a family. So, I appreciate being able to do it as long as I was able to. But then there's that time and place, every person has, looking forward, what do you want to do with your life, and just giving it all you got. And so in 2021, when I launched Sauce Queen, that's exactly what I did.
So being an entrepreneur, what are some of the challenges that you face? Because I admit myself, a little lonely, right? And I think part of what I love doing is having conversations with folks like yourself so that we can realize we're not alone, right? Yes, we might not do our day job the same way, but we both need marketing, we both need accounting, we both use social media. So there's plenty of other topics that we can, find kinship on and share, build this tribe and kind of connect with one another to say what's working, what's not working. Because there are days I post something on Instagram and I think it's going to be amazing and then nothing. Whereas other days I post something and I think it's just consistency. Right. And I don't think it's that great, but yet the audience thinks it's amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've learned a lot in this field of entrepreneurship in the culinary industry. Number one, when I launched Sauce Queen in 2021, I launched it as an e-commerce brand. I was focused on creating food products. I developed a recipe for my honey hot sauce, which is the first product I actually launched and got approved by the FDA to just sell retail. And then I moved forward with an all-purpose seasoning, just trying to see how to create seasonings regularly and what that process is like. The whole e-commerce, food and beverage industry in that regard and having products is really, really new to me. As we just discussed, I spent years cooking, events, learning, and then I decided that I wanted to have products and I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm one of those people, like, when I want to learn about something, I will go educate myself. So I've signed up for a few certification classes at UGA. They have some classes on food science and food manufacturing. I kind of learn, how does that work? If you have a project, you have an idea, can I do it myself, or do I have to hire a manufacturer and all that? And I learned a lot taking a couple classes, and then I was like, all right, I have some education about how this should work. Let me go find a manufacturer, and did that whole thing. But fast forward back to 2021, when I was actually able to launch as an e-commerce brand. Over that year or so, I learned that I didn't love it, right? So I think part of the challenge is like wanting to do something and while you're trying to figure it out, it may not end up being initially what you wanted or you think it will be. And the biggest thing for me is just like having to pivot. Like, okay, I'm wanting to do this with Sauce Queen. It's not working. How can I take another direction with the brand and still be successful? So I am constantly considering my journey and to ensure that I'm successful, having the right strategies and things in place. And if it's not working, it's not easy to just kind of let some ideas go. And that's a challenge for me as well. As I've kind of grown over the years, I learned that it was challenging for me to like run that style of business. I didn't enjoy packaging and shipping out orders every week like I thought I would. And then it was hard to kind of keep in supplies all the time because, COVID still like messed up the supply chain industry. So it's hard to kind of get things in, and I just didn't enjoy it. So, having to pivot and thinking about that challenge of just like not enjoying that style of business, like what do I do with this brand, right? So, to you or to anyone who would be listening to me, understand that it's okay to switch directions. I then took my brand and decided like, okay, what can I do with this? And it really has then led me to the journey where I am today, where I actually have a physical space where we're still going to make and create and sell products, but then we can also offer lunch and breakfast and other experiences like classes and workshops. So, stay the course. That's what.
Well, and invest in yourself. I think that's the overwhelming theme here is that, you wanted to learn something, you took courses, and then you wanted to try this and you tested it out. I feel like every day we're all beta testing.
Yes.
And if it doesn't work, there's always tomorrow.
Right. And stay positive, because sometimes you can really get down in the dumps about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And if it's not working, it could be that negative energy you really just don't want to hold on to. Everybody has emotions, right? So, and when you invest everything, and things don't work out, sometimes you can kind of get down on yourself. But I am a person that I always try to stay positive. I always think about how I can move forward. How can I progress even if it's slow, or if it's not a lot? Movement forward is still important and a big deal, and you should just celebrate the small wins no matter what.
So what were you looking at? What were you looking for when you decided to open your brick and mortar space?
Again, I ask myself a lot of questions about what do you want to do? Like, what's going to make you happy? And what's going to, be a profitable situation? Because ultimately you still have a family to take care of, right? And I thought about what I was doing at the time, which was a lot of pop-ups, restaurant takeovers. I had a residency at a small restaurant. It's not even open anymore with COVID, but wanting to be able to serve people food, because ultimately that's still what, at the end of the day, what made me happy. It's like, what made me happy? Okay, cooking food for people makes you happy, India. So, all right, I need a situation where I can be able to produce food, but I didn't want to let go of the creative process of creating products. I wanted people to come to me, because I learned, like, at pop-ups and events, if I had product there, people would buy it. I was like, okay, well, this makes sense. I need a physical space. I started looking online. You have your LoopNet.com, your Crexy, like all these commercial real estate sites where you can go and search for listings. And I simply just went and did that on a regular basis, and trying to determine how big of a space I wanted and what could I afford. Again, continuously considering like what having a physical space for me meant and what did that look like. And then I remember just like coming across a space downtown on Mitchell Street where they were rebuilding a lot of those spaces. I had applied for one, and I remember, just kind of having a phone conversation about what I thought Sauce Queen would be in a physical space, and someone saying, hey, we're interested in that. Can you send us a pitch deck? I remember staying up all night one night like, okay, well, what is this physical space on paper? How do I tell this quick story about, if I have a physical space, when you walk in the door, what do you experience? What do you see? And I remember overnight, working on that pitch deck and sending out the next day. And that kind of started like, okay, now that I have it on paper, I can kind of continue to stroke this vision and tweak it and really think about it. And so I did that. And while I was continuously looking for spaces and done all the things, talked to realtors, looking for stuff on my own. And interesting, the space that I'm in now, I actually found it on my own. So don't be afraid to just look for yourself as well. Like, there are experts out there for sure that can help you, but don't leave any stone unturned. You may look up and find the space for you, kind of like I did, because it was a very lucky situation. But that's kind of how I started thinking about, like, okay, wanting a space, needing a space, and then starting to look into a space to see what that would be, where it would be, how much it would cost to run something on it that's open every single day, because that's not the world I come from. I come from pop-ups and events, right? So, which is also very challenging. It's a current challenge for me.
Let's talk about that in terms of just like running the space, but also concurrently booking events, etc.
Yes. Okay. So, Sauce Queen started out Sauce Queen USA from the e-commerce side, and then we kind of did a very minor rebrand, you could say, with the space and calling it Sauce Queen Kitchen and Pantry. Kitchen from the aspect of serving food, offering a good lunch menu, and then the pantry side and having products and other grab-and-go type items. So, when I obtained the space, as mentioned, it was a very lucky quick situation where I found the space online, reached out, applied for it, and a week later I was signing my lease, right? So it was very crazy, like, oh, 1 week I don't have a space, now I do have a space, right? So, working towards then thinking about day-to-day operations and hiring employees, that was very challenging. I now have 2 cooks in the kitchen in my space, where at one point it was just me, and then, other people management issues, which you're not really used to on a day-to-day basis. I'm just like, man, just working through those obstacles, getting products in, supplies, outfitting the space, furniture, like all those things really have to be really well thought out. And I would say, like, here is the time where you trust your resources, because it's tough thinking you can do it all on your own. You need to build your team. I now have an assistant. I have cooks that work for me. I have people who are doing my social media stuff now. I had to really work hard the last few months to put that together. We've only been open for a couple weeks, so the last 2 weeks, we have been open every day as intended, Monday through Friday. We have a really great lunch menu. And we are now starting to book events and things for people are wanting things for Thanksgiving and going into December. Being able to book our space on Peerspace or directly for your small gatherings and things of that nature. And I'm actually also being asked by other chef friends, because I'm only open during the day, I'm also offering my space as a resource for other chefs who need prep space, which is not something you can easily find here in Atlanta if you aren't a member of a commissary kitchen. So things like that is like, whew. It took a few months to kind of work through all the kinks and stuff, but yeah, we're finally now just getting into a groove of being able to offer things that we want to offer and being a resource to others as well.
What a blessing. I'm very excited for you. And we'll definitely be coordinating an event with you in the near future.
So,
for those who are interested in following in your footsteps, what advice would you offer them?
Ooh, I would say from a cooking perspective as a chef, really kind of learn what you're good at. And if you're not good at something, educate yourself. There are things that I'm not good at when it comes to, I'm not good at baking. If there was one thing that I could just like be good at immediately, it would be becoming best friends with flour. So my advice for those of you who want to cook, like really learn what you're good at, learn the things you're not good at, really find your niche, because there's so many of us chefs out there. We all do different things and there's room for us all. Like as an example, I'm not a restaurant chef, as I mentioned. I'm not a meal prep chef. I live in the world and love the world of events. Now I have a physical space that I own, but that's more on the entrepreneur side, more than what I consider from my chef stuff. But, you know, you can figure out and find a passion in a part of the culinary world as a chef with your cooking style and really curate that for yourself and kind of grow your career in that. So that's one thing. From the entrepreneur side, man, know that it's not easy. Funding is your biggest challenge. You learn who your real friends are when you do a crowdfunding campaign. And you know, going to banks and stuff is not easy. So really thinking through your finances, understanding, again, thinking through what you can afford, what you can't afford. At the end of the day, can you afford this? If you don't get a bank loan, if you don't have family, you know, investing in you, or if you are having trouble raising funds. You know, I just told someone the other day, the space that I'm in, I feel like it's affordable, you know, based off other spaces comparable in Atlanta. And I said, if no one came in here today, I feel like through other things that I could still pay the rent, which is a big deal because not everybody can say that. You know, thinking about your financial situation and knowing what you can and cannot do is very important as an entrepreneur. And then as a creative, don't be afraid to try things. Try something new every single day, I feel like. And it's the fun part of it, because you might create something that people really will enjoy. And for me, that's the fun part of events, where I can kind of create a menu and create this experience. It may be a one-off. I may never do it again. But for me, it might have been super cool or fun to do that, because that's like the creative in me. So, you know, being a chef and owning a business, again, it just depends on where you really want to fall with your career, and, you know, the path that you take is different for us all, but it's a lot of work, a lot of investment of just mental, like thinking and doing, and you're on your feet a lot.
Oh yeah.
It's not an easy job to do, but when you love doing it, it definitely feels easy, comes easy to me.
Listeners, get more information about you and your work.
Yeah, so Instagram is like our main hub socially. So for me personally, you can follow me at chefindia.co. Again, that's going to be more of my R&D, more of my creative, more of my events that I do. For the restaurant, you can follow at saucequeen.co on Instagram, and that's where you're going to see all of our menu features and things that we're doing within the space. Online website is saucequeen.co as well. We're also on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, you can find Sauce Queen and kind of follow. And then also on Pinterest as well. But Instagram is where we love to be, where we connect most with people, and where you can find us and kind of see what we're doing.
Thank you so much, India, for sharing your story, your creative process, and the love you pour into every sauce and every event. Your journey from pantry staples to pop up to your own space is a true testament to the power of community and the magic of flavor. To our listeners, don't miss the chance to experience Sauce Queen for yourself. Support local, taste boldly, and keep an eye out for India's next event. Until next time, keep savoring the flavors and celebrating the makers who bring them to life.
Hi, my name is India Johnson, and you are listening to Hustle and Heart.